What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I'm here to make another video. I did say I was going to be doing another mock draft today, although I have decided to push that until tomorrow just because I want to try and make sure to fill the rest of the time between now and the draft with content as much as I possibly can, especially the past week. I've kind of slacked a little bit on that, so I'm going to do that tomorrow, try and fill in some days. The reason why, though, is because there is some news today that does need to be talked about, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. Should be pretty quick. First and foremost, we are going to start off Dolphin, and I talked about this a little bit in yesterday's video that I made. Dolphins to sign former Saints punter Thomas Morestead. And I like this. Obviously, like I said yesterday, we really need to upgrade from Michael Pilardi. Yes, he's a bit older, but he was a guy that I had on my list of potential free agents, and that does fill a need and a hole on this roster. And now I would say punter is taken care of, and we don't have Pilardi anymore, which is fabulous. So, yeah, I mean, as it stands right now, the defense is pretty much done. They just need a linebacker, which we actually will talk a little bit about. They didn't sign a linebacker, but they are hosting a linebacker. So we'll get to that in a minute. But defense is pretty much done. Offensive line still needs a center and a right tackle. We still need a lead running back and, you know, maybe one more wide receiver, but probably not really. After we get a middle linebacker, a lead running back, a right tackle, and a center, you're basically just at, depth options and backups at that point, which is a really good place to be, because then going forward, hopefully and ideally, we will go into the draft. We will draft guys. Like, I'm not super excited about having no draft capital this year, but if they do things properly, then, they can have, because the team's pretty much put together at this point, at least on paper. Now, that happens to the Dolphins quite often in the offseason. We go into it and we're like, man, look at the moves that we made and look how great we look on paper. We're going to have a fabulous year. That remains to be seen. Like I said, right now at this point, my baseline, I think, is about 9 wins. I think they should be able to get to that. And hopefully more. We'll see how the off-season programs play out and stuff. But they still got a long way to go. It is a new coaching staff, et cetera, et cetera. So there probably will be some bumps. But they are pretty much a, put-together team, minus those, couple spots that they still need to work on. And then, obviously, depth behind the starting lineup should, injuries happen and so on and so forth. So, and then next year, they would just be able to use all that draft capital that they have to, really, I was going to say finalize the team, but obviously teams are always a work in progress, so there's no real finalizing. But, you know what I'm saying? Because then they could, maybe address some of those positions that they still have holes at, or they can draft young guys to develop behind these guys, so that way when some of the veteran players, leave, then maybe Byron Jones, next year it goes somewhere and they need to free up caps, whatever. You get the point. Anyway, let's move back onto the main topic. So let's go through this. Dolphins clearly went into this offseason with a hole at the punter position, as Michael Pilardi was becoming a free agent. After a visit, he also kind of sucked last year. After a visit earlier in the week, the Dolphins have signed longtime New Orleans Saints punter Thomas Morestead to a 1-year deal, according to NFL insider Adam Kaplan. Morestead, 36. Again, he is a little bit older, but for a punter, perfectly fine, and he's a good punter. So, yes. Joins the Dolphins after splitting last season between the Jets and Falcons. He finished the year averaging 47.2 yards per attempt, highest mark since 2016. His net average of 42 yards is also the 7th highest for any punter in 2021. With this deal being a 1-year deal, there's no guarantee that Morestead wins the job, but for right now, he has no competition. And I'm pretty sure he'll win the job, because who else is there, right? But anyway, so that's good news. Love to hear it, and they are pretty much now settled at punter. And so actually that does change things, because like I said, I will be doing a mock draft tomorrow. My mock draft before, and who knows? I mean, honestly, they could still, my first ever mock draft happened to come when we only had 5 draft picks. My second one tomorrow, we're going to only have 4 draft picks. Anyway, in my first mock draft, I had taken Matt Ariza in the 3rd round. And now at this point, we technically don't need a punter, although that's still possible, but it does free us up a bit more and makes things a little bit more flexible. So that is good to see, and we still do need a linebacker. They could still bring the kid in and have the competition, and he is a generational punter from what everybody says. So anyway, enough of that. Let's move on. The next thing I want to talk about, Miami Dolphins are set to host Reuben Foster on free agency visit. If they can get him at a good deal, I think that'd be pretty solid. Miami Dolphins will host free agent linebacker Reuben Foster on a free agent visit, working out the former 1st-round draft pick on Friday. Adding Foster could give the Dolphins a solid depth play on the roster, though the linebacker has struggled to remain healthy through much of his career. Obviously going to be an issue, potentially an issue, so something to think about. Free agent visit was reported by Miami Herald's Barry Jackson. He's not with the Herald anymore, though. Anyway, Foster, 27, was a 1st-round pick of San Francisco 49ers in 2017, coming out of the University of Alabama. He moved into the starting lineup during training camp, starting 10 games as a rookie, but dealt with ankle and rib issues during the season, limiting him to just the 10 games played. He was suspended for 2 games at the start of 2018 for violations of the personal conduct policy. So obviously another thing to take into consideration, some off the field stuff too, right? Coming back to start 6 games before the 49ers waived him following a domestic violence arrest. Washington Commanders franchise claimed him, with the NFL continuing their investigation into his arrest. He was not suspended for the arrest, and the charges were eventually dropped, with both the Florida State Attorney's Office and the NFL concluding there was not enough evidence for any action. Foster's returned to practice with Washington in May 2019, but sustained a torn ACL that cost him both 2019 and 2020. So pretty significant there, although should be well past that injury at this point. Foster has had multiple workouts with teams since recovering from his knee injury, but he is yet to be signed by one. So obviously he didn't play in 2021. So it's interesting. We'll just finish this. In his 2 seasons of action, Foster has appeared in 16 games, starting all of them with 101 tackles, 2 passes defense. Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel is the run game coordinator for the 90s during Foster's time in San Francisco. He has experience playing both inside and outside. If the Dolphins were to sign him, he could make sense as an inside linebacker where the team could use depth. We don't need just depth. We need a starting thumper. And, his upside and potential. Look, I'm not so fond on taking other people's and other teams', 1st-round busts and trying to rehabilitate him. But if they can get him cheap, especially with the fact that he's got the injury stuff and, the domestic violence in his past, the issue, even though it got dropped, the fact that he didn't play last year, right? All these things, they should be able to get him cheap. And if we can get out of him what his potential is, then it could be a really good high upside signing, high potential signing. And if they can get him cheap and he's, initially just kind of buried on the depth chart, fine, great. And then if he can work his way up to be that middle linebacker, or, if not, and then they end up cutting him after training camp, fine, whatever. I think it would be solid to at least bring him in for training camp if that's what they're going to do, because that would then fill potentially another hole, and the defense then at that point should be basically fucking finished, besides obviously young developmental players to bring up behind some of these veterans, to eventually replace those guys. But yeah, so anyway, let's see. Could offer him a minimum contract with guaranteed money, turning Friday's workout into a summer-long look at the former first-round pick with no major commitment. Like I said, I think that would be a solid thing that the Dolphins could do, and they should do it. And look, again, just to be clear, I love Tyreek Hill on the team. I wouldn't have done it that way, but I do like their vision. I see what they're doing, and they are plugging holes. And so even though their methodology on how to approach all this isn't exactly what I would have done most everything they did, right? I would have brought in Teddy Bridgewater, re-signed Nick Needham, and tagged Mike Gesicki, and re-signed Ogba and Howard, right? I would have brought in some of the free agents that they did. Like, I like most everything that they have done, and it is a breath of fresh air for me, because even though it's not perfect or exactly to the letter how I would have done it. I'm not a rigid, inflexible person, and I can, sway a little bit. So I like the vision. I like a lot of their core philosophies, and I like the plan that they have. And so far, even though it's super, super early on and there's no definitive way to say that it's going to work out, they still have to prove that and put it all together. But I do like it, and I do think that there is a solid chance, certainly a million miles fucking better of a chance than what we would have had with Brian Flores should he still be a Dolphin. But yeah, so again, cautiously optimistic. Look, if we have a good season this year and things kind of, come together and we go into next season, even if we don't make it to the playoffs this year, but we still manage to win like 9 games, maybe 10 games, and we kind of continue on from where, what we were building on the past couple years, but the offense shows a lot of improvement, and I can have faith in the core fundamental philosophies of like Mike McDaniel and what this coaching staff is putting together, then maybe for the first time in years, I can go into next year dropping the cautious part to the optimism and just feeling good about this team. But for now, since we are still in the midst of a regime change, new coaching staff, all of that stuff, with a lot of new faces on the roster and in the staff, and with Ross and Greer still being at the head of things, cautious is going to be attached to that. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but I am hopeful, and I feel a lot better about it than in years past, and certainly with the past regime. So good stuff. Let me go ahead and wrap this up before I drone on for too long. Those of you who watch me know how I feel. Those of you who don't, hit that subscribe button so you can find out. Yeah, anyway, so let me get out of here. Before I do, make sure you check out the Rave On Sports App, the new fan-driven sports app for all of your sports, whether it be basketball, baseball, football, college, whatever you like, they got it, and they are looking to enhance your game day experience with live play-by-play coverage, live chats with other fans and content creators like myself, while also providing you with an arena to dispute the terrible officiating. So look for the links to that in the description box. And with that, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys appreciate my perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. And of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at DillonTartaro, as well as on Instagram at Dolphins_with_Dillon. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.
7 seconds left. Tannehill will throw it. And this will end it after the shuttle. Miami runs around. Short quick. On the go. Gronkowski did not be able to go. Touchdown. Canyon train. Oh, miracle. Miraculous in Miami. Stills to Parker to Drake. And they held off the field. Unimaginable what has taken place here in South Florida. The Dolphins have done it. They keep their season alive. 69 yards. Wow. Pure joy. Miami wins it.